Hey, it's been a few months since I last posted, but for a very good reason. I mean, check out this backlog here. I've got quite a lot of material to work with for the next couple of months, but first I need to find my motivation. I lost it somewhere between these two villages here. So to get myself back into shape with this kind of stuff, and because it's much easier to ad-lib it, that's right, we're going to the Paris International Air Show. It's held every 2 years at Aéroport de Paris-Le Bourget, and it is reasonably close to the major airport of Paris, Charles de Gaulle. You might see a flight or two pop up in the footage. And here's some advice: if you see a bus taking you from the show to Villepinte, don't take it! Don't take it! You'll end up here, in the middle of nowhere. It happened to me, so it won't happen to you. Don't do it. Most of the major aeronautic players had a presence inside the halls. Landing gears, engines, ailerons, metallurgy, you name it, they probably had a stand exposing their products. Though I am pretty sure some further assembly is required before you can attempt to use this engine. A few nice concepts I've seen inside the hall are these, I don't know how to call them, personal octocopters, the solution to all your traffic jam problems. And you're sitting there thinking, oh, but I'll never be able to afford something like this. Keep in mind that about 40 years ago, one of those Motorola brick mobile phones was like $2,000, yeah? Well, adjust that for inflation and today you can buy about 4 new iPhone Pro Maxes. I'm just saying, technology will evolve and will become cheaper, but the major benefit is you will not be stuck in a traffic jam on the ground. You'll be instead in the air, pray you don't run out of fuel. Weaponry is also showcased here, and for those who play Call of Duty, yes, that's the Predator missile. Or at least a smaller version of it. It's still cool though. Want more coolness? How about a satellite? I've never seen one this close. Whenever you look up to the night sky and you see like this dot of light moving across it, it's one of these bad boys. China was also present with their lineup of military aircraft and drones and helicopters, and I'll give them this. They do be looking good, but it pales in comparison with what the home team has to offer. This is Dassault Aviation. Founded in 1929, they're the guys who made the Mirage, which is an aircraft as old as the MiG-21. You would say it's like the Western version of it, even though they are completely unrelated. They're also the producers of the Falcon series, which I would dare say is the quintessential business jet. And as it's completely typical for this channel, I forgot to film it. That image is all you're getting. Technological demonstrators and prototypes are nice and fun and all, but let's go see some real aircraft, starting with what happens when you crossbreed a C-17 Globemaster with a C-130. You get an Airbus A400M Atlas. What I mean by crossbreeding? Well, the fuselage is similarly shaped to a C-17, while it uses the C-130's type of engine, a turboprop. Speaking of those engines, one quirk they have is that they're counter-rotating, which means on each wing one of the propellers spins to the left and the other one spins to the right. They do that as it improves lift, and it's not that much more heavier maintenance-wise. All that's different is that 2 of the engines have a special gearbox. It's currently operated by most of the major Western nations, Turkey, of all people, Malaysia, and surprisingly Kazakhstan and Indonesia have them on order as well. It's fascinating to see an aircraft this size actually be nimble. I mean, look at it, it just turns and climbs with ease. The name Atlas comes from the Greek mythological figure which was condemned to hold the heavens up. You could say this aircraft carries the heavens, though for some reason I always want to call it the Titan. Airbus, please name change it to Titan. Speaking of Airbus and giant maneuverable aircraft, look at this spectacle! How is it even possible for a passenger jet, an A321 to be precise, to move like that? It just blows my mind! I mean, sure, the ride will be very uncomfortable for the passengers, but I never imagined for it to turn like that. And while I'm editing this, I realize, yeah, okay, right, doesn't look that impressive, but trust me, see this live and you will be mind blown at how it does that. Back on the ground for a bit, remember that satellite? This is a thing that can launch it up. It's part of the Air and Space Museum held here at Le Bourget, which I'll have to visit next time I am in Paris. Turkey made its presence at the air show with their free-jet supersonic trainer. This cute little helicopter drone thing. and an impressively sized and armed to the teeth drone named the Gerfalcon, or Aksungur, that's how I'd pronounce it, sorry Turkish people. The Americans were also present here with their F-15 Eagle and the F-16 Falcon. Really puts into perspective why the Falcon is called a light fighter. I mean, it's half the size and engines of an F-15, but also half the price. Being light also makes it very nimble. Check this out. You ever seen a jet fighter pull this kind of takeoff? Bet you haven't. And here's an interesting story I read about the F-16. It's so maneuverable because it was designed to be very unstable. It's flying stable only because it has fancy computers doing micro adjustments to keep it stable. As soon as that computer goes, so does the aircraft, I imagine. If only Apple would put like a 10 optical zoom on their iPhones so I could film these fighter jets flying along much more clearly. I have to cut quite a bit of footage of it just to make sense. I mean, Samsung already has a 10 optical zoom on their flagships. It can't be that hard, Apple. More interesting American military guff, an Apache Longbow helicopter. Helicopters were also present in the airshow, but the footage is downright terrible. It didn't make the cut. Aw, sweet! A Rockwell B-1 Lancer, supersonic variable sweep wing heavy bomber. It's a pity it got replaced by cruise missiles and the B-2 stealth bomber, but still, it's really nice to see one in live person. It's big. Funnily enough, it's nicknamed the Bone, because, you know, B-1 Bone. Though if you see that thing coming at you, you're definitely boned. Though the star of the American fleet has to be the F-35 Lightning II. Stealth multi-role combat aircraft, and I just have to say, look at this chunk! It makes the F-22 look like an athlete runner compared to this. My god, is it fat! And it's doing a pretty bad job of being a stealth aircraft because I can see it with my eye. It's not very hidden, is it? But all my criticism regarding its shape, size, overblown budget, usefulness got out the window when I actually saw it fly. Yes, it did a post-stall maneuver in flight. Best way I can describe this kind of stuff, imagine an aircraft drifting in the sky. It's part of a state called supermaneuverability, which basically takes some of the laws of aerodynamics and chucks them out the window. Now, I am not an aeronautics engineer, so pretty much everything that I'm going to say has a 95% chance of being wrong. One way you can make an aircraft super maneuverable is to cram as much power in it, kind of like a drift car. Ideally, you'd like to have a thrust-to-weight ratio over 1, which the F-35 can do when it's only quarter-loaded with fuel. Another way you can detect a super maneuverable aircraft is to observe its stall characteristics, like for instance here, the F-35. Notice how it entered a stall, yet the pilot is still in control of the aircraft. Try doing that in any other aircraft that is not maneuverable. Chances are you do not recover from the stall and you faceplant the earth. Other ways you can help get super maneuverability is using canards or thrust vectoring on your engines, both which are not present on the F-35. And I will say this, in the air it doesn't look as chonk as on the ground. Some advice if you do want to go to this show. Take a barrel of water, 10 liters of sunscreen and 7 umbrellas because it got really hot. So hot they pulled out a fire truck to cool people down. The Eurofighter Typhoon is another example of a super maneuverable aircraft. It's got the canards and the engines to do that, but being a relatively stable aerodynamic platform, it doesn't do post-stall maneuvering as the F-35 does, so it doesn't drift as well in the air. Though post-stall maneuvering is mostly for show, not actual combat. The Eurofighter Typhoon has quite a few kills on an F-22 Raptor in simulation games. Ouch, America. United Kingdom, Germany, Italy, Spain, they all fly the Eurofighter. And if you're wondering where's France in this, well, due to disagreements over design, authority and operational requirements, led to them to develop the Dassault Rafale. And if you're wondering where the footage of that is, well, it's here. That's all I got. I was waiting in line to get some water because it was incredibly hot that day. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to leave you with Patrouille Acrobatique de France and some footage that I have that it's not utter garbage. Until next time. Apple, put USB-C in the iPhones already, and while you're at it, put the headphone jack in. Apple!